Hello, everyone. I'm Anthea Mulakala, and I'm the co-lead of the Asia Foundation's Future Skills Alliance. Today, I want to talk to you about an urgent need, future-proofing skills in the Asia-Pacific region. At the Asia Foundation, we are committed to delivering future skills at scale to underserved communities. We foster collaboration between governments, private companies, and nonprofit organizations, harnessing collective resources to amplify our impact and reach those disproportionately impacted by the digital revolution. One persistent issue we face is the global gender gap in STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. In the Asia-Pacific region, this lack of gender equity is most apparent in engineering and information technology education, where only 21% and 29% of tertiary graduates are women. To address this, we have created the STEM Connector program. This initiative supports and empowers young women, fostering diversity and inclusion in STEM through mentoring, learning responses, and a peer-to-peer regional community of women in STEM. Here's how we're making a difference. First, we're investing in the future. STEM Connector prepares young women for careers in critical fields, driving innovation and economic growth. Second, we're bridging the gender gap. We're tackling the underrepresentation of women in STEM, creating a more equitable and diverse workforce. Third, we're nurturing talent. We recognize the immense potential of young women in STEM and provide them with the resources and support to succeed. And we're building a pipeline. STEM Connector inspires and motivates young girls to pursue STEM education and careers, ensuring future generations of women leaders. Join us in our mission to empower women in STEM. Together, we can build a more equitable future. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Arina Dafir, Community Affairs Manager for Microsoft. We're excited to be part of this important initiative because closing the STEM gender gap is a significant step towards a more equitable society. It is our hope that through this program, we help knock down barriers for young women to thrive in a STEM career through access to mentorship, training, and networking. For young women considering a career in STEM, my advice would be keep an open mind. There are multiple pathways to enter, explore, and be successful in this field.
Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I'll just give it another minute while we wait for people to join in, and I'll pull up my slides in the meantime. All right, we can start. I'm the STEM Connector webinar series. Today's webinar features STEM Connector sponsor Estee Lauder. Inspired by the visionary legacy of Estee Lauder herself, today we'll hear from inspiring leaders from STEM who will share their personal journeys, insights, and advice. I hope this webinar will leave you feeling inspired, motivated, and equipped to make a positive impact in the world of STEM. So let's get started. Here's the agenda for today. I'll start off with telling you a little bit about who we are and what the STEM Connector program is, and then I'll hand it over to my colleague, Robin Bush, who's the country representative for Malaysia. And then we'll have a really interesting discussion with our two panelists from Estee Lauder. We'll make sure to keep some time for live Q&A. Please use that time to ask any questions of our panelists. You can type your questions in the chat session. Also, I want to remind you that you can, at the end of the session, you can earn a certificate of participation from the STEM Connector program for participating in today's webinar. I'll share a QR code that you can scan and provide feedback, and that will generate the certificate for you. And finally, before we start, I just also want to let you know that this session is being recorded. So the Asia Foundation has designed and is implementing the STEM Connector program. We are an international development organization that's headquartered in San Francisco, and we have a presence in 20 countries across the Asia Pacific. We've been working in fields related to social and economic development in this part of the world for over 70 years. Increasingly, we've been doing a lot more work related to future skills under our Future Skills Alliance platform, which is basically a collective impact model that brings private and public sector partners to deliver future skills at scale, especially for the region's underserved groups. We've been doing a lot of work related to the digital divide, and under that particular area, we have the STEM Connector program. We believe that STEM fields offer incredible opportunities for innovation, problem solving, and we feel anyone, regardless of gender, should have the chance to contribute to these exciting fields. However, as you can see from the graph that I'm sharing, that only 29% of the women enter STEM fields as compared to the regular workforce, where about more than 50% of the workforce comprises of women. And this gender disparity tends to get worsened dramatically as you go up the career path. Only around 12% of women are in top leadership in STEM careers. And in over the last 18 years that researchers have been studying this gender gap, there hasn't been much progress. Surprisingly, the speed of change is extremely slow. And if I ask you that, do you think by the end of the century, we would have achieved gender parity in STEM? The answer would be no. Research shows that it's going to take almost 5 generations, over 130 years, before this gender gap will close if we do nothing to speed up this change. And in order to address this, the Asia Foundation has designed the STEM Connector program. This program aims to give women access to resources, skills, and network to not only enter careers in STEM, but also thrive in them. And we do this through a whole range of offerings of programs. We have mentoring opportunities that we offer through our platform. You can securely connect with mentors both one-on-one or as a group. We offer industry speaker series like the one that we're having today. This is a monthly webinar series that we conduct. We also offer peer-to-peer networking opportunities, both virtually on our platform, and also during in-person events. We offer in-person events in the form of workplace tours that allow you to experience what working in a STEM company would look like. And we give you access to tech demos, opportunity to meet industry speakers, and these take place in the 5 key countries that we are implementing this program in. These include Singapore, Korea, Malaysia, Japan, and India. On our platform, we also have we also offer free access to a library of learning resources that have been given to us by our corporate partners. I'll share more information how you can access all of this in the next slide. As you participate in the range of programming that we offer, you have the opportunity to earn certificates and digital badges. Now, how can you get involved? The first thing you can do is register on our platform. I've shared the URL here. There's also a QR code on the side. If you go to our platform, you'll find out about upcoming events. I've also listed, we have one more coming up in October related to cybersecurity in partnership with Cisco. In November, we have one around data centers in partnership with Microsoft. On our platform, you can also access our learning resources library. We have courses from Cisco, AWS, VMware, Zendesk, and Microsoft that are all available for free. These are self-directed learning courses. If you are in Singapore, India, Malaysia, Japan, and Korea, you can participate in our office visits. In Singapore, we have one coming up to Cognizant end of this month, and then end of the year, we have one to Estée Lauder. And then you can also access mentors through our platform. We have over 100 mentors that are already part of the program. Our mentors come from our corporate partners that are listed below, which include AWS, VMware, Microsoft, Estée Lauder, Micron, etc. You can safely and securely connect with mentors on our platform. Here's just an sample of some of the mentors that are already on our platform, just to give you a sense. You can access all these resources for free by registering on our platform. My colleague will also share the URL of how you can join our program. I will now pass it on to Robin, who will introduce our wonderful panelists and start the discussion. Thank you, Robin.
Thank you so much, Maureen, and good afternoon, everyone. I am so excited about this talk that we have today. We have two amazing, amazing women. I was chatting with them just before we started, and you're going to be very, very impressed, I think. My name is Robin Bush. I'm the country representative for Malaysia for the Asia Foundation. I'm also the co-lead for the Future Skills Alliance, which is the platform under which we provide STEM Connect Her. So today we have Yumi Kasakawa and Jane Andrews to meet with us and talk with us today. I'm going to take just a couple of minutes. We're going to open it up very, very soon, but I'm going to take just a couple of minutes to go through their bio in a little bit of detail before I start asking them some questions. This is because I think when we have role models like these two women, it's really interesting for us to understand how their career journey has taken place and what were the decisions they made along the way. So I'm going to go through this a little bit, and maybe this will spark some questions for you that you want to ask for them to kind of dive into. So we have Jane. Jane's joining us from Shanghai. She's a Senior Vice President, Asia R&D for Innovation and Packaging Development for the Estée Lauder Companies. And in that role, she oversees all of ELC's research, development, and innovation teams in the Asia Pacific and China. Now, Jane graduated summa cum laude, which for those of you who don't know means she was at the top of her class in chemical engineering and management from McMaster University in Canada. And then she later added an MBA to her roster of academic portfolio. She started her career at Procter & Gamble. She had various leadership roles for about 20 years, and then she joined Conagra Foods as head of international R&D. She joined Estée Lauder in 2013. She joined as vice president, research and development for Aveda. And then in 2016, Jane moved to Asia in the role of vice president, Asia Pacific R&D. Product development, corporate innovation, and packaging development. My goodness, that is a mouthful of a title. And only a year later, she was promoted to senior vice president. So in her current role, Jane leads teams that are based in Shanghai, Hong Kong, Seoul, and Tokyo. And under her leadership, Asia-driven innovation has become a significant engine of growth, and regional R&D output has more than tripled. Last point here from her very interesting bio is that she's led the building of a brand new state-of-the-art China Innovation Labs in Shanghai. So maybe this is something that we want to ask her about later. So amazing, amazing career path, Jane, and welcome. I'll come back to you in just a second with a question to start our conversation. But first, we also have Yumi Kasakawa. Yumi is joining us from Tokyo. She's the Vice President for Research and Development in Asia Pacific for Estée Lauder Companies, and she also leads the company's Japan Innovation Hub. Ms. Kasakawa, Yumi, she's been at the forefront of R&D and innovation for most of her career. She also began her career, interestingly, at Procter & Gamble, where she also led numerous teams, including the consumer insights and innovation teams. She did a lot of work with interpretation of data-driven consumer insights, working with marketers, product developers to produce industry-leading personal care products. So she also spent about 2 decades at Procter & Gamble, similar to Jane. And then she joined Mars Inc., where she was for 9 years, and then joining Estée Lauder in 2019. And Yumi really has been a champion for women in STEM throughout her career. This is something I think we're going to hear from her about, that she's passionate about. and really invested in developing the next generation of leaders, which is why she's here with us today. So welcome to you both, and thank you so much for joining us. It is an honor and such a privilege to have two senior leaders and role models like yourselves. So I'm just going to ask you to start off with a very short, introduction of yourself, what's important that you want to share at the outset of this conversation, a little bit of detail perhaps about your role, or anything about how you got to it that you want to just start off and throw out there into the conversation to get us going. So Yumi, why don't we start with you, and then we'll go to Jane.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Yumi. I'm so glad to be here. Thank you for having me in the exciting session. So as just Robin introduced, I've been in the R&D career for more than 30 years. And I always want to be doing R&D, research and development, and doing something great for people's life. And, my dream came true. And this is my third company to serve for consumers doing innovation to make the world better. I'm happy single, no kids. I have an old father living in Osaka with cats. So sometimes I have to spend some time making sure he's living okay. So this is how I balance my work and life. Nice to meet you.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you so much, Yumi. I think this is something a lot of us can relate to. How about you, Jane? Would you like to introduce yourself?
Absolutely. So welcome, everyone, and thank you for having me. It's truly an honor to be asked to speak with you today, and I hope that Yumi and I are able to share stories and experiences that will help you as you grow and build your career, however you choose to do that. As Robin said, I've been at this now for 40 years, so I have some more time in this area than Yumi. I think when so I'm a chemical engineer, and when I was interviewing, I remember this, it was all those years ago. It could have been go to the oil fields, go to the gas wells, do what you think of chemical engineers as doing, but I interviewed with this company, Procter & Gamble, and as my father said to me after I accepted the job, well, Jane, people are always going to need laundry detergent. And it was coming from a very practical father. But for me, very much like Yumi, what I was really drawn to was the idea of working on products that make a difference in people's lives every day. And that's what brought me to this industry. I think of this industry as consumer goods, and so food and different categories all fit into that. But it's about helping to make consumers' lives better, easier in some small way.
Perfect.
Oh, I guess I should say,
thank you.
So
go
Yumi
ahead.
said she's not married. I am married. I have, so I have a spouse. We have a dog, and we're empty nesters, which is how we are able to be in Asia for so long.
Mm-hmm. Hear you on that. So thank you both. Our audience today is comprised largely of young women who are just kind of at the latter stages of their educational, at the tertiary education, or moving into their careers. So I do want to start off a little bit with your beginnings as well. And Jane, you've already talked a little bit about those initial choices that you made to join Procter & Gamble and why. Maybe sticking with you, Jane, for just a second. Chemical engineering, that must have been, or maybe I'm wrong, but my assumption is that that might have been an unusual choice for a girl in Canada at that point in time. Was it? And what led you to be drawn to chemical engineering to study that in university?
So I was really blessed with my parents who um, encouraged me to do things that I was passionate about and that I was good at. And to be honest, I was good at maths and sciences. I did okay in in history and geography and things like that. But maths and science was really what I was good at. And I didn't appreciate that there were going to be so few women in engineering. I was a little naive. I'm interested that it's now 22% graduating from engineering, women graduating from engineering. When I was there, it was 1 in 10. So 10%, and it was, sometimes it felt lonely. And what I found was having like-minded friends really made a difference. Having friends who wanted to do well academically, who had, I would say beliefs similar to mine about working hard, studying hard, doing well in school, made quite a difference, because then I didn't feel quite so lonely. And I think that's, it is going to be at times a little bit lonely, and I'll talk about that in terms of working as well. So you want to find people that can be you need to build your network. And it's not just people in STEM, it's people who believe in you, people who encourage you, who are your cheerleaders, and can, help bolster you up when you're feeling lonely or things don't go the way that you had planned. So build your own network, but ultimately you got to have confidence in you. We're smart, we're capable, and I think actually in some ways school is a little easier than in the workplace, because at school, you know what the tests are, you know when they're due, and so it's there's nothing to decode. When you get into the workplace, and this was something I struggled with some, was to decode what really mattered from what didn't matter.
Okay, we're going to come back to that. And that's a really important point. And I think, the importance of a peer network is just something we hear over and over and over again. We know it like every stage of our career. It's so crucial. It's so interesting to hear that you say, that the value of that starts in actually in university, when even before you get into your career, that's a success strategy, long before you're even in a STEM kind of role professionally. What about you, Yumi? Can you tell us what initially attracted you to research and development, and what was it like growing up in Japan as a young girl that was interested in R&D?
Yeah, similar to Jane, I was good at math and physics in the high school, and my parents did not expect me being that way. They wanted to be normal, to be married, and to be happier with kids. And so, I didn't get any special encouragement on that STEM education, anything. But there are two math teachers in my high school who found me and said, so they found a female student who is good at math, and then they had real encouragement. Hey, you should pursue the career in STEM. And then, that really gave me a lot of encouragement. So they were my mentor in the school. So I didn't go to chemical engineering. I was not good at that. I have chosen biochem, bioengineering, because I wanted to do some design in plants and biology. So I did that, and then upon my graduation, I needed to choose my job. I was interviewed by a few Japanese companies, but I was so bothered by being asked, "Are you getting married?" or "What's the plan for having kids?" What's that?
In the interview, they asked you
The
that.
interview at that point. So a long time ago. That was in 80s. So, but I was luckily found a position in American company Procter and Gamble. I immediately felt like, oh, this is where I can stretch my wing. I can be myself, and I will be trained, and I can do something good for people's life, in consumer goods company. So that's how I got into STEM career. And since then, I stuck in R&D there. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so interesting. And maybe we'll come back to the question of whether Japan has changed in all these years and how young women in Japan now might. Anyway, we'll come back to that. But for both of you, a question to both of you, the same question. If, I think observers from the outside looking in would assume that that you might have faced unique challenges working in such a male-dominated field as a woman. Can you share what has your personal experience been Has it been challenging? What have been the moments of challenge where you've really noticed the disparity, and anything to share with us along those lines? Maybe we'll go back to Jane for that first.
I've been really fortunate that I've worked at companies that have really encouraged women's development and have supported women, you know, throughout their entire career, not just when they start, but through the entire journey. I think at both P&G and at Conagra Foods, there would be times when I would be the only female woman in the room, you know, and you learn some things. So the first time you go in, it's a little bit like, you know, I'm here, I won't take up a lot of space, you know, I'm going to be quiet, I'm just going to observe, and that's not going to get you anywhere. So what I learned was, okay, I'm taking up my space. Okay. I mean, and physically, you need to take up your fair share of the space, not more, but your fair share. And then whether you're introverted or extroverted, I'm an introvert, you need to have a voice in the discussion. And, you know, if you're introverted, then you need to make sure that what you say really has impact. And if you're extroverted and you talk more, you still need to make sure what you have to say has impact and is relevant. However, recognize as an introvert, you're not going to have as much share of the conversation, so you really need to have impact when you do speak. You need to have a point of view. You're there for a reason. Yeah, so you need to be participating and at times leading. So whether you're female, male, whatever in the meeting, whatever you're in, you need to have impact and you need to have a point of view and you need to be prepared. And that's what I would say, irregardless of whether you're the only woman in the room, whether there's over half the room as women, you need as an individual to be prepared to have a voice and to take your fair space.
Excellent. Oh, those are amazing tips. Sorry, didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I was just saying, Yumi.
Well, before we go to Yumi, just a quick follow up on that. So those are incredible tips, and I think we should talk more about that, sort of how to build the confidence to have your space and occupy your space and have your voice. But just to confirm, so in your experience, your personal experience with P&G and then Estee Lauder, you were in these companies where you were the only woman in the room very often. But you didn't really, it sounds like, experience like institutional discrimination. Like you were given an equal platform to engage.
I saw, so what I would say at all three companies I've worked at is I've never experienced institutional prejudice. In fact, I mean, at one point I had one of my previous bosses take me aside and say, well, it's a good thing you're female because, you know, that's certainly helping. And I'm like, really, dude? I'd like to think I got here all on my own, but thank you for that. And if that's what's happening, okay, all right, okay. But I don't think that's what happened. I think though that I mean, I have run into situations where in other companies or outside of work where, yes, as a woman, there is some discrimination. And you have to decide in the moment how you want to handle it. And, you know, I go back to something that my mother once said, if you're going to forget about this and people are going to forget about this in 5 minutes from now, let it go. And if it's not going to have any lasting impact, let it go sometimes. You don't always have to be the one saying it. Though, if it's going to be if it's something that's important to you, you need to be authentic and you need to be true to yourself. And you need to speak up. You need to speak up, in my experience, this is my opinion, you need to speak up in a way that you are heard, recognizing that they may not hear you. And again, you have to ask yourself, you know, is there any point in continuing this, or I've said it? You know, you're gonna, you know, I may not get you fully, you know, all the way to where I think you should be. Today, however, I've said my piece and I can be good with this. I need to be able to look myself in the mirror and say, did I do the right thing? And I have, I have spoken up even with at my last company with my EVP to say, can I maybe offer you a little different perspective on what's might be going on here? So rather than saying I'm right, you're wrong, it's there might be something else going on. So, can we at least explore that? And then, accept that they may not see that.
Yeah,
I hate
yeah.
to
No,
put it
that's
like that.
really helpful. Really helpful. Thank you. Thank you, Jane. Okay. Yumi, what about you? How's your personal experience been and how have you dealt with any challenges you may or may not have
Yeah,
encountered?
similar to Jane, I haven't seen any systemic disparity in my experience.
Okay.
However, being a single only woman in the room, sometimes I felt like, oh, it's hard to join the football conversation over dinner or
Yeah.
baseball, and then guys talking right over beer. And then I was sitting there. Um,
Uh,
and but I just learned that I just don't wait for their invitation. I just stick my nose and say I am here, and
mm,
don't wait. Sometimes people don't know what to talk to female, so it's not their intention to ignore me. It
hmm.
just maybe they're not used to it.
Yes.
One of the senior manufacturing leader I now work with said he came from Japanese company, and he said very openly he never worked with the senior engineers, like senior engineers in Estee Lauder companies. So he said, I was quite impressed. They're all good, So I I we need to sometimes give a space and time for them to learn,
Yes.
and simply we do great job. So, just don't wait invitation from them. Sometimes, just speak up, get the space and share a voice and make sure you are there. So very similar to Jane.
Yeah.
But it's so true. So true.
I hear you both saying that there's a real role for senior women like yourselves to kind of educate in appropriate ways, right? Kind of provide perspective, to speak up and share, not necessarily in a confrontational way, but in a way that's aligned with the culture of the organization that you're in. And that's really interesting to hear and really important. So, Yumi, I'd like to ask you kind of a little bit about to share with us a little bit about skills. What are the skills, whether they're technical skills or more soft skills? What do you think have been the skills that have been important for you as you've positioned yourself throughout your career as a leader in this field?
There are many things, but I would say listening is one skill.
Mm,
I'm still practicing listening and understanding and have empathy, because I work with not only among technical team, but also with, marketing or business community. So just listen to their pain point, business strategy, what's the
mhm,
agenda, and then we are expert of STEM and technical matter. So make sure we speak our expertise in the context of the business. So in the context of the environment, in the
mhm.
context of strategy. So that bridging is important, but for that, first we need to listen. So listening,
Mm,
one skill
yeah.
openly, that's one skill I learned. I'm still learning.
Mm. It's really one of the most important fundamental skills for women and men, to have. Absolutely, so important. And Jane, for you similarly, kind of the question about skills, but also earlier you were already speaking a little bit about, the you were giving some tips and some advice to women to, have a voice, occupy their space, and they might ask you, how do I actually do that? What are the skills needed to be able to feel confident that I can kind of sit in my place at the table and speak up, whether I'm an introvert or an extrovert? Would you go a little deeper on that for our audience?
Absolutely. It's not unusual to have self-doubt. And it was interesting. There was a question in the chat about, or a comment, and I think it is true. I've read this a number of times, that men will put themselves forward as a candidate when they meet 60% of the qualifications, and women don't put themselves forward as a candidate until they meet 100%. And I think that there is some truth to that. When I was first promoted to VP at my last company, it was incredible. They put a coach in place with me, and I realized that I had what's called imposter syndrome, which is I don't really think that I deserved this. And so every morning when I got into my car to drive to work, I had to say, I deserve a seat at the table. I have earned this. I remember this vividly. I had a little thing I had to recite. And you may think, why would she be doing that? And it was because I had, Yumi talked about the importance of technical skills. I had the technical skills. I had demonstrated my people leadership, my strategic leadership. However, like the women applying for the job, I felt like I was 60 to 80% there and therefore maybe wasn't ready. And my coach's point was, you are ready and take your seat at the table. And so I had to work on that. And so there is that saying, fake it till you make it. And I don't like that saying, but there is some truth to that. So remember, for many people in your career, and I think this is true inside and outside of STEM, people are making assessments and judgments about you all the time. As I said, school is relatively easy, and I think in some ways it's easier for women because we know when the test is, we know how things are going to be scored. And in the workplace, though, it's not always clear what the test is, who's assessing you. So you got to bring your A game all the time.
All the time, yeah.
All the time. And that's why I said you need to have a voice. You need to be prepared, because you never know who's watching and assessing. And I'll give you a personal example. So I'm at P&G. I'm 6 or 7 years into my career. I'm a section head. I have a team of like 12 people. And I present, I go off to this meeting, I present, and then I come back, and a month later, my boss takes me aside and says, you may not realize this or know this, but this person, Charles Bragg, was in this meeting. He saw you. He was really impressed with what you had to say. And he liked the way that you, appeared to lead, and they'd like to talk to you about a role in the United Kingdom. I was in Canada at the time. And so based on seeing me present at one meeting, this senior person decided that I could be a great fit for what he needed. And ultimately, I ended up taking the role, and it was the start of a big international adventure for us. So my point in sharing this is, you need to, as Yumi said, you need to know your stuff. You need to present it with confidence. You need to fake it till you make it. You need to have a point of view and always have a plan, and have a plan A and a plan B, and sometimes a C. And then recognize that opportunities are maybe not always where you're expecting.
So you've got to always be ready at,
always
any
be ready.
juncture with your plan A, B, and C.
Exactly. And recognize there's some serendipity. Lots of us like to plan, but that's not quite how the career works. You need to be open to new opportunities. And my thought is, think about experiences. You're gaining skills and experiences, and it's a mosaic. And I saw a question in the chat, and Yumi can expand on this because she's done this. But we do at the Estee Lauder companies have programs for women. There's the Open Door program. But for all employees, there's this new initiative about the mosaic that you're trying to create with your skills and your experiences. that help you think about your career in a quite strategic way. Yumi, do you want to talk about that?
Yeah,
Because
Yumi, please
I've been really impressed
jump
with
in.
what you put together.
Yeah, Career Mosaic is a format of and there is an activity to really look around how you go through your career journey and what is a certain skill you develop on the specific assignment or role, and then how you build the skill based on how you go through the journey. So when I made my career mosaic for the past 30 years, beginning with as a just a researcher at the Procter Gamble. At that time, I was eager to develop a statistical skill and the design of experiment, that kind of foundation. And then I became a manager, people leader, senior leader now in my role. So the skill needed for different role and it's completely different. So you have to be very, very conscious about what skill you work on, and you get mentor, you get coaches, and so you can really design your career, but just be open-minded because you never know what comes. I still remember the first day when my boss in the first company said, Yumi, you are put in a manufacturing process development role starting next week. And that I never thought about it. And the
Oh my
role
goodness.
is all about all the engineers and guys and engineering in the factory. So I was about to cry. I'm failing, but that was
Wow.
the best career move I had.
So
Looking
tell us a little bit more about that. That's amazing. I mean, and it speaks to what Jane was saying earlier about you have to just always be ready. You don't know what life and your job is going to throw at you. You've got to be, fake it till you make it, be confident, all of these things, be prepared, but just be ready with whatever gets thrown at you. So how did you, deal with that situation? And what were your tips that made you survive?
Well, I decided to, okay, so I ask 20 or 30 questions every day in the first few
Oh,
months. And I found the supporter, mentor, coaches, but I
right.
decided to trust myself because my boss trusted me.
Oh, that's amazing. Words of wisdom.
Sometimes people don't know your strengths. It's hard to see what's your
Mm.
strengths, and people around us knows more about our strengths.
Mhm. Mhm.
So if my boss, who I really respect, believed that I could do it,
Yes.
and I decided that I could do it.
Yep.
I worked on it.
I think that's crucial, especially for the imposter syndrome, which Jane brought up earlier. I think almost every woman in any field, not STEM or non-STEM, and I'm not in a STEM field, but I absolutely am familiar with the imposter syndrome. It's pervasive, but what you're talking about, trusting in someone, either a mentor or a coach or a boss, or, in your case, Yumi, even when you were in school and your teacher said, you're really good at math, you should follow this path, right? And you trusted, those teachers and kind of sometimes they can see things in you that you don't see yourself and just kind of saying, okay, I'm going to take this and I'm going to go with it. Yeah, amazing.
I saw a question in the chat about what skills do we look for
Yeah.
in STEM graduates. And I think this is true for many companies. So I'm not just speaking to the Estee Lauder companies. And you may chime in because you've got experience at multiple companies as well. I would say the first thing is when you're starting out, it's about your technical skills. Are you able to solve problems? Are you able to anticipate problems? Can you get the important work done? Not all the work, but the important work. Can you prioritize? Can you manage yourself effectively? Have you a track record of collaboration? Can you work well with others? Do you synergize with them? Is it 1 + 1 gets 3, or are you more of a lone contributor? And then communication, because nobody works in a vacuum. It's so important to be able to, not just send great emails, also to be able to speak, And and so those are kind of, from my perspective, the four foundational things. Then we get into, can you influence? Can you lead people? How are you strategically? However, at the beginning, it's technical, and can you get the right stuff done? You mean your additional thoughts?
Nothing to add, but we typically like fresh candidates with lots of curiosity, because curiosity is the base of the passion and base of observation, base of innovation.
Excellent, excellent. This is gold for our listeners. I am sure everyone's scribbling all of these, tips down.
Can I add one other thing? So there's something that I learned, and I still struggle with this. Okay. So I grew up in a world where, you worked hard. It was hard work, got you the results. And I still think that hard work can make up for a lot of things. You can learn things, you can power through things. However, please don't ever fall into the trap of thinking, well, just because I work hard or I work long hours, that equals success, because it doesn't. What matters is the impact you have, the difference that you make. It's about what you produce. How hard you work is simply how you get there, but that's not what counts. And I think sometimes in school, hard work gets rewarded. In the workforce, it can get rewarded if it produces something really great.
That's a very interesting insight and very important for us to consider. Hard work is important, but it's not sufficient. You've got to have, it's necessary, but not sufficient. That's what I'm trying to say, right? You've got to have the hard work. I think we're still in a world where hard work is essential, sometimes even more so than generations ago. But it's just not enough. You've got to have this confluence of curiosity, of impact, of luck sometimes, of having access to people who make decisions, lots of things that come into that question of whether you have impact or not.
Yeah, and career is a marathon. It's not a sprint. So you cannot continue to work 130% all the time.
Correct. Yeah. Pace yourself. Another important lesson. I'm going to now open the conversation up. I've really enjoyed chatting with you two ladies, but I know that our participants and our audience on this call must have a lot of questions. Some of them are in the chat, but I would invite the audience to unmute yourself, ask a question directly, and if you're not comfortable doing that, you're welcome to put something in the chat. So I'll just pause for a minute.
Yes, Robin, they cannot unmute themselves on the webinar, but there's a stream of questions that have come in. Some are under the Q&A tab. I'll just read one of them and then I'll copy the rest and send them to you. So one of them is, what kind of opportunities are there at Estee Lauder for researchers with a PhD who don't have much industry experience?
Take that one to start. So a couple things. The first is that one of the key ways that we hire people is through our internship programs. So every summer, in fact, start looking for it in Jan, Feb, you will see that we are, in Asia, we have internships. And we have people with bachelor's, master's, and PhDs who are, still in school, come in and spend a summer with us. That allows them to, try out what it's like to work in the beauty industry, because it's, some people have a real passion for it. And to Yumi's point earlier, if you have passion, you will always want to go typically that extra distance. And so people will come into us with no industry experience, and they come in, one way they come in is through our internship program, which allows them then to go into our management trainee program. On the other hand, though, we do hire people direct from school or with a couple of years of experience without beauty experience. Again, it goes back to what we talked about earlier. Are you technically capable? Have you shown us in other industries that you are technically capable, that you get results? That at the end of the day is what matters. I've worked in, if you look at my career, I started in laundry detergents. I went to dentifrice, which is toothpaste. I then went to healthcare, cough, cold, stomach products. I then went back to toothpaste in Europe. I then went to beauty care, which was hair products, hair and hair dyes, which are some of the most complicated chemistry in the industry in all of consumer goods. Then I went to food. Food, I'll never forget somebody saying to me, "Oh, how can you go from beauty to food?" And the answer is it's actually not that hard, because an emulsion is an emulsion, whether it's in a food product or it's in a shampoo or it's in a cream product. So the technology is learnable. The question that is, how agile are you at learning new things? Yumi, anything to add to that?
No, that's perfect, Jane.
Okay. Yumi,
Excellent.
I saw a question in the chat about mentors. Do you want to take that? Sorry, Robin, I'm
Yeah, no, go ahead. Go ahead. That's a good point. Yeah, go for it.
Yumi, do you want to talk about mentors?
We know that mentors are incredibly important. It's come up time and time again across our experience with women in STEM across Asia. The question is, how do you believe mentorship played a role in your success, and what qualities would you look for in a mentor?
Yes, I have various mentors, formal and informal. Sometimes company arranged a formal mentor based on my, my position, my career aspiration, and all the development reason. And also I had my informal mentor who I believe, this person is my mentor, but maybe that's not the arranged mentor. I just wanted to have a touch base occasionally and just exchange some opinion and questions. So mentor is important because they may tell truth about business or reality, or may give advice that may not be completely politically correct, but some truth, real advice for me as an individual. So I really believe in mentorship. So I'm happy to be a mentor of others, particularly female. And yeah, so I am full support of a mentor. So in our talent discussion, I always ask, okay, so who is her mentor? Who is his mentor? That's an important question to me.
Interesting. That's quite an insight. I do see one question in the chat that's, I think, is very important about new technologies and AI. It says, any tips to navigate our careers in the face of changes and new technologies such as AI? Could I ask either or both of you to respond to that?
Sure. And Yumi, please add in. AI is a fantastic advance, in my opinion, and it should help us do our jobs with less effort. And I think that it should be able to speed the development process. We're looking at AI to help us with repetitive tasks, and to be able to automate those, very much like, many years ago in the Industrial Revolution when things became automated. We're also looking at AI as a way to help us bring together information and analyze it in ways that are not as easy to do without AI. So can we take stability data on like products, and how could we use past experience to predict what we will have in the future? So we're using AI in many different ways. Within our marketing function, we're looking at how can AI be used to generate marketing messages. Yumi?
Yeah. To be completely honest, AI makes me feel humble. After working in the industry for 30 years, I feel like I know pretty much everything. I know how to do consumer research, how to do formulation, how to do, how to set the hypothesis, how to do experiment. But with the quick evolution of AI in the past few years, I was really scared that this is something I really don't know the full potential yet. Makes me humble and forced me to learn. So, sorry, I don't have full answer for that, but because I'm still learning and I feel humble, I feel good about that.
Yeah, I think that's really important. I mean, both the response that you gave, Jane, I think had what several of the questions in the chat relate to AI, and so I would urge you who asked those questions to listen to what Jane said about how companies like Estee Lauder and how leaders like yourself are thinking about the skills that are needed to work with AI. But also, Yumi, this idea of humility. Wow, what a fascinating and amazing way to look at AI is like we don't know everything, and this is a whole new world. And how can we engage with it with humility? We have 6 minutes. I'm going to have to bring this to a close shortly. What I'd like to end with, the last question to both of you is if you could give career advice, and you've already given a lot. So one last little bit of career advice that you would give to young women on this call that you wish you had known when you were younger, when you were starting out, what would it be?
Well, I would say you're already great. Be bold.
Be bold.
Be bold.
You stole my line. So let me say it maybe in a little different way. You bring value. You're smart, you're capable. Don't underestimate your worth to the company you're with or the company that you're looking to join. And be clear on what you would like. I'm going back to Yumi's career mosaic and thinking about the experiences that you need. Recognize that the destination you choose today or you think you want is probably going to change over time. And that's life. You mature, you think differently, you see the world differently. However, don't be afraid to ask for what you want. You're valuable, you bring good stuff. So ask for what you want. Don't let, I talked a little bit about serendipity. If I look back on my career, there was maybe a little more serendipity than I would in hindsight have liked. I was in the right place, right time, got lucky. Don't rely on luck. Ask for what you want. Make sure though that you have those skills and that you've thought about it carefully, and go when you've got 60 to 80%, not 100%.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, I think that's really, really helpful, both of you. There's a lot of questions, and I can sense anxiety in the chat in the questions about what, the field is changing so quickly. What are the things I need to study? What are the skills I need? All of this. But as you're just saying, Jane, it's going to continue to change, right?
Change.
So know what you want, be prepared, ask for what you want, be bold, be curious. Those are the things that I'm hearing, and those are skills that are not going to change. Those are important abilities that will always serve you well, no matter actually where you are in your career.
Right.
So with that, unless you have any last parting words of wisdom, ladies? No? Thank you
Wish
so
everybody
much.
on the call the very best, and may you have a wonderful, wonderful career wherever it takes you and however you choose for your career to be.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing. This has been invaluable, amazing for our listeners and our network. I will hand over now back to Mehreen to take us home.
Thank you so much. It was so interesting. I took so many different notes of these wonderful lessons, hard work versus impact, and fake it to make it, and Jane, your mother's advice. It not only resonated with me about not making a big deal about something that doesn't matter after 5 minutes, but I'm certainly going to be saying this to my kids. It's going to be something that's going to become, part of not just professional, but also personal life. But thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it. Also, a shout out to all our supporting partners. I'm putting up a QR code if you're interested in registering for our platform. And before you leave, please take a minute to give us feedback on this webinar. And once you complete this feedback form, you will then receive an e-certificate for participation. You can either scan the QR code, or my colleague has shared the URL in the chat that you can click on. It'll just take you a minute, and we really appreciate your feedback, and we really want you to earn your certificate. Thank you again for your time today. We hope to see you next time. And thank you, Jane and Yumi and Robin, for such a wonderful conversation and discussion. This was really inspiring.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you,
Thank
Maureen.
you. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. So we'll keep the QR code here for another minute for anyone who needs to use it to complete the feedback form.
Yeah, I guess that's it. Everyone, Mary?
Yes, I think that's okay. Thanks, everyone.
Okay. Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone. Thank you.